within me that keeps unfolding life. I guess that's kind of my first thought on emotional sobriety. I've sat in a lot of workshops on this stuff at different conferences and listened to people talk about it, and I've seen workbooks and ideas on it, and I, but I'll never forget what Don told me. He said we never have to go back to the basics if we don't leave basics and of our three legacies that keeps us tied in here. Eventually, if we keep at it, and I think there's a essence of time while and walk through the fire, go through the ups and downs of life, and I think that with that comes an experience that is, well, it is what it is, but the main thing with it is we get to help others with it. There's a little piece in the third step prayer that talks about we ask him to remove our difficulties, and for one reason only, and it's not so that I get to feel better. The only reason I'm asking my creator to remove my difficulties is so that victory over them will bear witness to his kids. That's it. And so we stay around here a while and we continue to practice these three legacies and be involved in it. And I think it's been to a point in my heart, in my soul, that I have a deep understanding that this isn't about me. It really isn't. It's not about the ongoing pursuit of heady intellectual, spiritual stuff. I love to do that stuff. I read books. I participate in some spiritual practices, and but really my life is not for me. And I think that's the essence of our third step. And we really, I think after some time of being around here, that really it's settled into me. Sometimes I tell people that in a meeting wherever you guys are at in your home group, and I suspect this wouldn't happen with anybody on this call, but I pray to God that they get a little bit more than keep coming back. I hope they get a little bit more than don't drink no matter what. I hope they get a little bit more than an hour a week. I don't know where that ever came into our fellowship. I hope that you would honor your third step commitment and spend time with my boys. And I promise you that if one of your kids ends up in my home group and I get a hold of them, they're going to get introduced to the full on perspective of AA. They're going to get introduced to all in an hour a week because they deserve more than that. And I know we're busy, man. I get that. I get it. I own a business. I got kids. We're up at our family cat kid across the wall here and two dogs. So if things start getting a little nutty, that's what it is. And what a blessing, right? From a guy, I swear to God, I didn't think I was going to live to be 25, and I let people know that I really didn't today, and being able to share it with is incredible to me. So we grow up. We we get around here a while, do inventory work, make amends, and I think for me, I continue to see me. I continue to see reflections of me and others, and sometimes that's like a little smack in the face. It's like, oh my God, I when I first got to Alcoholics Anonymous, they told me that you're selfish and self-centered, and we would read that stuff, and though we usually don't think so, right? And I thought, yeah, I usually don't think so. I was a sick alcoholic, but hell, even when I was out there, I tried to help people once. It was never without a motive, and you guys have done something with me on that. Just completely. I don't think that way anymore, and I guess that doesn't have much to do with me. It has to do with trying to live in the consciousness of the presence of God today. And I love the path that AA offers for that. It's gentle. It doesn't always feel good, but it does what it does. And one of the things that I really love about our experience here with spiritual stuff in AA is we get to kind of take the bridle off, and I love that about AA. When I first got in, the first few years, I would go up to a monastery. There's one about an hour from Cedar Rapids. A couple of you guys have been up to that with us and listen to the Trappist monks do their Vespers and stuff at night. And I used to go up there early and sit with this old guy, this old monk. He was 80 some years old. Had been in that monastery for 68 years, since he was a real young man. He devoted himself in that way, and he was in charge of the gift shop, and I would sit in there and talk to him about stuff. And one day we were we were talking about AA, and he knew about AA. In their library, they had a bunch of big books. And actually, on Wednesday nights, they have a meeting there that some of them guys take their robes off and they come down to. But he told me something that really blew my mind, because I was thinking about going and doing that. But he said that if you're doing AA, and the doing part of it was like really what he meant. Like, if you're really doing AA, that is outlined in that book that you and I have been talking about, then you're essentially doing the exact same thing that we're doing here in this monastery. He said the circumstances of our lives are very different, but the essence of our lives is exactly the same. We're serving a God. We're in service to others. Our life isn't about us. And I just need enough to begin to see you. And I see you, and that's where I begin to see God. And I don't know if I have much more than that to talk about with this, but I'd really like to hear from some of you guys, if that's okay. I hope it's okay, because I think I'm done. So Tom, you chairing this thing? Are you still there? Or you
I'm still here. Chris,
Yeah.
you want to take over the Master of Ceremonies piece? You've been doing that and you do a good job of it.
Sure, I think we can do either. If people want to just unmute themselves and jump in, or if Tom, if you have people, or if Mike, if you have people you'd like to hear from, you are allowed to call on people.
Well, if I get to call on anybody, I'd like to start with Mr. Brown. Gary.
Heavy with the Mr. Mike, please. I'm Gary. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you. Everybody hearing me?
Yes.
I got to do this a few weeks ago, Mike, and found myself stumped at it too early too. What I've learned as a result of this is I think that I find myself now working with a couple of people. You get 55 years sober, you don't get many youngsters coming in or new people coming in. They don't relate to that. And so I'm currently working on Thursdays before I get to this meeting and get to take a guy with 35 years of sobriety and never taken the steps. Happens to live in New York City, and that's not been much different other than he has some maturity about it and some experience to offer stuff that I might learn something, and working out that way. I think a lot about this being emotionally healthy in AA, and looking back over my life, I don't think there was many times that I really felt that way. I know early on in my AA that I was going to all those meetings in Denver with the guys you guys know, and that sort of thing, and running amok, running with some of the people I shouldn't have been running with, but it just seemed to be all in AA. And now there's only 4 or 5 of us left that are doing that. We stay in touch and do that and laugh and think about how stupid we were. So I guess that's all I got to think. It's sure good to see you and hear you and see what friends we show up here, and that it's just, there are some blessings with Zoom that I don't appreciate sometimes when I want to sit around and shake hands and hug my friends. But anyway, you want to call who's next, Mike?
Mary Thayer.
Hi, Mike. Mary Thayer, alcoholic. Oh, you have a nice cabin there. It's very nice.
Hi, Mary.
The only
That's
problem
beautiful.
that you have is,
Yeah.
is that you speak slowly anyways, Mike, and you kept freezing after each word. So it got deep. And then I started to fill in things for you. And Candace said, stop saying his dog. Anyways, it's good to see you guys. And I know that, I know that I just have a lot of fun watching you guys. We've had a lot of fun over the years. And I have to say, even though you don't talk a lot, okay, you definitely demonstrate by your actions. And that's been a gift. I wouldn't have as much patience as you do, as you well know, but I have been thinking about how, it says that if we don't enlarge on our spiritual life, we will not be able to face the certain trials and love spots ahead. And we can talk that all we want to talk about that. We can read that all we want to read about that. I do not grow gracefully. This has never been an easy thing for me to do, but I've had the opportunity of working with someone who's in your life a lot. And I just absolutely love the report that you stay pretty steady, no matter what's going on. Yeah. She has a different story, but you have demonstrated a constant just gift, just real gift of being a demonstration of what I would want if I was one of your kids as a dad. The way that you have worked, I know something about, you know, how you've continued to trudge along, walk slowly with purpose. And so this emotional stuff, I don't think we can talk about. I think it's more of a demonstration. I don't do well with it. This past week, I didn't do very well at all. But at the same time, thank God we have a 10th step. Thank God we can kind of regroup and see what areas of life that are still triggering me out of fear versus faith. Anyway, it's just great to see you, great to hear you. You guys have a wonderful time up there with the kids and the family. I just love that thing, a better demonstration of our principles in our respective homes, occupations and affairs, and homes, and being with all the boys. Just be safe and well. Love you guys. Thanks. Kurt, you want to talk next?
I did. Hey, everybody. I'm Kurt Zimmerman. I'm an alcoholic. Well, you know, what I was thinking about was, I was thinking about this statement at the very end of this thing.
Okay.
Hi. It says, my brain no longer races compulsively in either elation, grandiosity, or depression. I've been given a quiet place in the sunshine. It's one of my favorite parts of the whole reading. God, I said it a couple of weeks ago. I think the only way to say it is I thank God I'm not suffering from what's not happening anymore. I'm not creating stories based on fears and being triggered by constantly, you know, I'm not a victim of my mind. And when that happens, like all of you guys said, I have a working solution to that was given to me based on the principles that are encompassed in the steps. You know, and it's funny because now, so a lot of times now, if I get caught, I'll go, my self-talk used to be really destructive. It was 4-letter words. It was always critical. And now I'm like, it's funny because now I go, oh my God, you knucklehead. You don't really believe that. Or I'll say, I was given a little instruction a while ago. Thanks for sharing. Next. Which was right in line with something they say in the 10th step. We cease fighting anything or anyone. And it was based on the principle of, next, you're inviting this to come in. And inviting it to come in. The next commentary, inviting it to come in. And what's eventually happened is it lessens because nobody's listening to it. And it's just like paying attention to that kind of commentary. And I think what happens is eventually it's almost like you take a step back. You know, I have a metaphor I use that is like, get your popcorn, sit down, watch the show, get off the field. I got beat up so badly playing the game that I went into the bleachers and I am gone down on the field to try and play the game again. That's how bad I got beat up. And so eventually I have a friend that says, you know, you just don't sit in the bleachers. You do what Mike said. You go back on the field and you help other people that are injured off the field. This is the whole thing. This is the whole deal. You know, it becomes an integrated way of living. And so, you know, when I tried to fit AA into my life, it never worked. When I fit my life into AA, it's amazing what happened. It was totally different. So that's all I got. Thanks, Mary. Thanks for asking me.
you go.
Are we round
How
robin?
about-
Is that what?
Well, that,
Audio.
is that what we're doing? How about Tom, you?
Myself? I felt like I already spoke. Well, thanks, Mike. Yeah, I feel the same way you do, Mike, that this has always kind of bothered me, that people kind of said, well, emotional sobriety. It's, back in the 80s when I got sober, there were a lot of talk about second stage recovery, and it was like some higher level, and to me, I mean, in my 34 years, second stage recovery is when you work the steps again and you become more effective at helping God's kids. I mean, that's all I can figure, and with that essay, it seemed like what Bill was saying was that just try to care less about, the material and the world in general. It's almost like a Buddhist kind of a deal. That's how I interpret it. But my emotional sobriety comes around, the 10th step, really, like being aware of what I'm doing and how I'm feeling and what's going on in my life, and as best I can. And then when I screw up, which it says I will, turn myself in, be accountable, be transparent. And that's helped my emotional sobriety more than anything else, I think that, when I first got sober, I got sober in a treatment center in Albuquerque, and they used to drag us around to meetings in Albuquerque. And, the guys in treatment, all the people in treatment would share at these meetings, and it really bothered the old timers a lot, and they'd call us pups and say different things. And I'll never forget this one guy saying, keep coming back. It just gets worse, but you won't care as much. I thought, isn't that a hoot, And it just stuff doesn't bother me as much as it used to, and I think that comes with time. But everybody has said it, it's like, I was telling somebody about Tom I, and, I had a lot of conversations with him after Don died, and he kept saying the same thing to me. He kept talking about effectiveness. And, is what you're doing effective? Is how you're helping people effective? And I think that's that's what we strive for, is to be able to be more effective helping God's kids. And, that's all I can come up with. I mean, that's it. Second stage recovery, do more of first stage recovery, kind of deal. So I'd like to hear from Steve L. in Nashville.
Thanks, Tom. Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Lee. I'm an alcoholic. Mike, thanks so much. Great to see you and Erica. Great to see so many people on here. I hadn't been on in a few weeks, and I'm going to be on here next. I've only got about 5 reasonably coherent things to say about this, and I'm going to say them all next week. I don't want to shoot my wad this week, but I will say that I don't know that it's second stage recovery or next level stuff. Bill does call it the next frontier. And I take some solace in the fact that letter was written at about 22, 23 years of sobriety for him. And this recognition that I think that for me and a lot of us, that when we get sober, that not drinking, I love what I think Mary Thayer was talking about, where it says in the book that, that the elimination of our drinking is but a beginning, and that much more important demonstration of our principles lies before us in our homes, affairs, and occupations. And my first sponsor, Frank, said, that's true. He said, but that not drinking part's real important. And it's real important early on not to drink, because I don't get anything AA has for me when I'm drinking. But 23 years into Bill's sobriety, there was a recognition, probably before that, but he put it on paper, that there's a recognition now. People, when, he wasn't thinking in terms of being sober 20 years, right? When nobody had been sober 20 years or 23 years or 24 years. So now what? Now that I'm hanging around here sober for a little while, now what do I do? And of course, we talk about it in how it works. It says the point is we're willing to grow along spiritual lines. And so I want to continue to grow in that, in the emotional wellness that Gary talked about, emotional health, as Kurt talked about, not to be the creator of my own problems, the manufacturer of misery through my thinking. But the biggest illusion that has continued to plague me, and I don't think I'm alone, and when I say plague, I'm aware of it. It shows up. I try to tap it down. I ask God to help me tap it down. But I will continually fall victim to the belief that I will be self-satisfied. And I think that's the unhealthy dependence, that I'm going to find something that's going to be okay, I need something that I don't have. And Bill talked about those unhealthy dependencies. And it just takes me a while sometimes to realize that they're dependencies and that they're unhealthy. Books, the 12 and 12 says that we all know the difference in a simple request and a demand. And I would tell you, I absolutely know the difference in a simple request and a demand. I just don't recognize when one of my requests has morphed into a demand. And that is, then it becomes attached to me and I become a victim to this unhealthy dependency. So I really love, I love this reading, and it's one of the things that's, I hadn't looked at it much in a number of years, but it really gave me a different way to think of things. It stimulated my thinking a few years ago. So I appreciate being on here tonight. Mike, I appreciate you sharing with us, and thanks for giving me a few minutes here, and great to see everyone.
Thanks, Steve. You want to pick someone else to share, or we can also go to raised hands. It's really.
Well, let me hear my friend Kate. I hadn't heard from her in a while.
Thanks, Steve, a lot. I was thinking when you started talking, when you said, I'm speaking next week and I've only got about 5 coherent things to say, I thought that's an exaggeration. Anyway, I really liked what, like Kurt and Tom, I think we're talking about. I think what I've started to notice for myself is that the old commentary, for me, it just gets boring. That same story, and I'm aware of it coming up now through, I think, just time and through prayer and meditation. And the story just gets boring to me. It's just boring. And I remember hearing years ago, actually, Bob B from Minnesota talking about his thoughts and what we've just been talking about. And he said he sees his thoughts like trains coming into the station. And he said he came to realize that he didn't have to get on every train that came in the station. And that he could what did he say? He'd say something like he could let some of those suckers pass right on through. And that's what I like. And I think too, some of the ability that I'm aware of today too, is I can walk into a situation and it's almost like I can see how Kate would typically respond to this. There's like that pause, and I can pause and think, yeah, we don't have to do that. And I think that, for me, I think that's been really helpful, because it gives you the opportunity to not go down that old road that you've always been down, so I don't know, that's all I have to share, but it's really nice to see so many good friends here tonight. And thanks very much for your share, Mike. I love you, Mike and Erica. It's so good to see you guys.
Thank you, Kate. If anyone else wants to jump in.
How about Brian P., Shorty P.?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, everybody, I'm Brian. I'm alcoholic. And thanks, Mike. I'll be brief because I don't think there's not enough time to tell you what's been going on with me lately, but I will say, last 2.5 years, I'm 27 years sober. Last 2.5 years probably been the darkest, and so I have this deep understanding. When use the word benighted, I was like, what does benighted means? Like who even uses that word anymore? And it means unenlightened and morally ignorant. And there's some people on this that have known me since, Mary Thayer knew me since when I came to Maine. I was maybe 2-3 years sober. And my unwillingness to truly trust my creator and within 2 years has destroyed everything that I've ever loved. So it's been pretty dark. And I'm in this space now where it's like the sun set on this piece and the sun is rising, and I'm having this huge experience and I can't understand it. And I'm able to reflect on some of the decisions that I made and some of the actions I took, and I can't take them back. And I'm just like, I can't believe how unenlightened I truly was at 25 years sober. And I will say this, and this has been true for me in the last month. There's people that come into my life lately that have touched my spirit in a way nothing has. And Mike, my sponsor, had said, like this experience you had will someday help someone. You just don't know when. And a grand sponsor, he called me 3 days ago, and he was dancing with the same devil that I actually danced with. And I cannot believe, I said, why'd you even think of me? He says, you know what? I don't know. It's just God told me to call you. And that experience has changed and shifted where he's at. And I've done a third step with a guy yesterday, and I did a third step with a guy 2 days ago, and a guy's meeting me tomorrow, and I'm just doing it. And I got to tell you, this is not a moment of hope for people who are, maybe newly sober, but at 27 years sober, about a month ago, I had an experience, and where it was time to check out, and I'm ashamed to say that, because I got kids, and I had a spiritual experience that night that changed everything. So I'm not sure, everything for me is self-inflicted and self-imposed crisis. Nobody's at fault, and I accept all blame. But I don't know. There's people, when I look at the faces on here, there's people that I love deeply. So that's all I got. I'm going to turn the video off because I need to. And thank you for asking me, even though I didn't want to share.
How about Heather Riggs? Heather Patterson, is she there?
Yes.
They're lovely.
My lovely.
They're lovely.
Oh, Heather, I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Mike. I got every seventh word that you said. It's funny that the internet worked when Erica spoke, though. I don't know what that's about. I tell you, I'm blown away by Brian's share, and I don't know what it hit in me, but it hit something. My heart's beating real fast. I feel like I could cry. It's funny. I think when I was about 5 years sober, from about 5 years sober to 9 years sober, I really saw a lot of reliance upon people and not upon God, and it was a horrible place. And like my favorite daydream was about suicide, and I finally, the day before my 9th anniversary, I remember surrendering suicide as a principle and as an option. And I thought that, so funny, I thought because I had made that surrender to God, that my reliance upon people and upon things other than God would always stay like that. And And what I've been seeing again in myself is how subtle it is that I will rely upon people to make me feel good, to validate my worth, to give me a place in this world. But I still want the fruits of God. And I'm kind of dancing around trying to serve two masters. And you know, I appreciate that you talked about suicide, Brian, because it makes me feel like when I have those thoughts and when I have those feelings that there's that I'm not doing something wrong, that I'm not going just through the actions, but that there are real emotions and real feelings that happen in here that I really want to deal with. I have a very small list of feelings that I want to have that I find acceptable, and then the rest of them I want to ignore or set aside. And, you know, the working with others, I have used that as a way of distraction and being busy. And then it no longer benefits, right? I don't get that relief anymore. It's because it's not for fun and for free. It's because I need to feel a certain kind of way. And the thing is that I have been in the sunlight of the spirit, and I do know what that feels like, and I want more of it. I think there's a part of me that is wicked, spiritually greedy. But then there's this other little bratty part of me that wants what she wants when she wants it, in the way that she thinks it should happen. And I think more and more for me, that's the struggle: is that do I really want God's will for me without the conditions? And can I really set aside what it is I think should happen in my life or anybody else's life? And can I just be? Can I just be a child of God? So yeah, I was really blown away by you. Thank you for sharing that, Mike and Erica. Good to see you guys.
Thanks, Heather. Is Barkley still on there? I saw him at one point. I'd like to hear from Barkley. Maybe he left. Is he on there? How about Wyatt? Wyatt V.
Hey, I'm Wyatt, alcoholic. Thanks, Tom. Thank you, Mike, for your lead. And thanks, everybody, for your shares. Well, you know, emotional sobriety is, it's an interesting topic. I think it's everyone has feelings and emotions, and they're important. Some people say, oh, you know, feelings aren't facts, or F your feelings, or whatever. But I think that feelings are important and emotions are important, and they're actually point us to God, and that we need to pay attention to them. And the idea of the false dependencies is, I think that's what the steps are all about, breaking the false dependencies. We agnostics talks about that. And it's been a dark time for the world. It's been a dark time for our nation. It's been a dark time for me personally in my personal life, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, socially. Everything is, you know, upside down and not in a good way. So how am I going to maintain some sort of sense of being clear, calm, centered, grounded, stable, supported, sober, sane, present, connected, safe, and protected? These are things that I need to be conscious of, maintaining this. And how am I going to do that, right? Well, let's talk about motive. Well, I just want to feel good. Is that why I do the steps? Or am I doing it to stay sober? Am I doing this to find God? Am I doing this to, or whatever? You know, I had one of my sponsors told me, no, you do this because that's what the book says. That's your motive. You do it because that's what the book says. I've been blessed with, like, just people calling me, getting in touch with me out of the blue, asking me to help them with our program. And right now it's like, it's hard to get out and connect with people for me. And I feel sorry for the new people that come in and they can't get to a meeting, at least here in Los Angeles. And it's been a lifesaver for me. You know, that piece that Bill wrote, it seems like he's really kind of encapsulating a lot of our program. And he talked about depression. He talked about he had bouts of depression and there was a way out of the depression. He was trying to send us a message of how to get out of the depression. You talked about work and self-sacrifice for others. Well, those are two words I don't really cotton to too well. Usually work, it's not my favorite thing, it's self-sacrifice. But so this is a carving some contrary thoughts, actions, and feelings, and taking actions that are contrary to what I would like to do. But you know, a lot of it also, the brilliant thing here is this thing that I've been working with lately, which is the God-directed thinking. So wake up in the morning, ask God to direct my thinking. So where are these thoughts coming from? Who is directing my thinking? Is it social media? Is it something on the news? Is it this, that, the other thing? Where is my thought? Who's controlling my thoughts? God-directed thinking. This is what this is all about. Effective prayer. Don P. talked about that. Effective prayer, God-directed thinking, non-linear. I believe personally, my God doesn't play by the rules that the rest of the human race plays by. He plays by different rules. He's non-linear. He's capable of, I can tap into a non-linear thought process that will transcend my circumstances. And alcoholism is not a disease of circumstance. It centers in the mind. And you can be free if you want to be free. There's an unsuspected inner resource we can tap into of love. And I believe that that connection really happens when we're sitting down with another alcoholic and we're working the steps with them. This is brilliant. And if we don't have that, even prayer, meditation, and work our way back, it's my duty to the new guy that's coming in the program, or maybe some guy who's out there dying of alcoholism right now, to keep on working 1 through 11. So I'll be ready for when he needs some help. My life is not about just relentlessly processing my emotions, okay? It is a lot of laughter, smiles, helping people, living life. I play music, I run around and have a good time, you know, for the most part, even under these circumstances. So I've been able to find a way to smile and be cheerful and grateful for what I've got. So, you know, there's been so many fabulous things said today, and I'm taking everything everyone said, I'm trying to take it to heart. And I want to send some love out to each and every one of you. Thank you for letting me share.
How about Missy? Missy D.
Tom Ewell, why did you do that?
Just for fun.
I'm an alcoholic and I'm from Marblehead, Massachusetts. And I've just started coming into this meeting, oh gosh, maybe a month or so ago. I think it was Erica that I heard. Hi, Erica. Mike, it was wonderful to hear you. I've heard a lot about you, but I've just now seen you on the Zoom, and I'm maybe someday when we're all out and about again, at some point, I'll come say hi. This is a topic, you know, I started drinking, I think probably around the age of 12 or 13 with Mary Thayer. I'm the one that knows her the best. You can just stay muted, Mary. And when I finally came into Alcoholics Anonymous, literally on my rear end, I didn't wake up that morning and decide that was the day I was coming in, but I landed here in Marblehead. And I really thought for quite a while that once I stopped the drinking, which I did, which was the grace of God, and have not had any desire to do that, and I'll be 41 years sober next month, God willing. I really, really thought that that would be it, that I'd stop drinking and I'd get on with my life. And I think I did for quite a while, very deluded, very much in shock that I was sitting in an AA meeting. And, but I was, you know, the very first sense I had was that I had a feeling of connection, and I was scared to death, but I felt very good about finally knowing what was wrong with me. I was a single mother. I had 2 little kids. One was a teenager who had become my mother, actually. And 2 former husbands. We were all very alcoholic, all of us, of course. And I'm sitting in the halls and I'm going home after meetings and I'm raging at my children. And I would not come back into the meetings and talk about that, of course. So this emotional sobriety took me a while to realize that I had used alcohol for many years as a medicine. And I remember as a little girl, whenever I had an emotion or a feeling in my home, which was alcoholic, I was sent to my room until I could come downstairs and join the family with a smile. And so in order to survive in that family, of course, that's what I had to do. And alcohol for many years, it worked for me because every time I had an emotion out in the world, as a raving alcoholic, young woman, and then, an adult, I would drink. So to be sitting in the halls early on and not knowing what the hell was happening, my God, it was brutal. And I had many, looking back on it now, I've had a lot of bottoms in this program emotionally. It's a miracle that I haven't picked up a drink to this day. But everything I have gone through, I'm very grateful. And my husband used to say his past drinking was his greatest asset. And he was very grateful for that because it informed his gratitude of today. And I can say the same thing. Everything I have gone through, really gnashing my teeth up at 3 a.m. Mary Thayer used to tell me to just grab a pillow and rock and hug that pillow. I would just sit up, and I was dying in this program. I was dying from the emotional. I didn't know what to do. But for some reason, of God's grace, I did not pick up a drink. And if that's what I tell my sponsees these days, do not drink no matter what. They used to say in the Marblehead meetings a long time ago, don't leave until the miracle happens. I didn't know what they were talking about for so long. But, slowly, day by day, the onion got peeled. And I stopped raging at those children. I started to look at inventory about my behavior in all areas of my life. I was fired once in sobriety. I told my boss to go F himself. I have never done that drinking. Never. I called Mary Thayer. I was astounded that he fired me. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. I mean, I'm a single mother raising children. How I can't be fired. I was fired. He did it very nicely. I think he felt bad. And I called her and she said, well, Missy, you can't go out into the world and say these things. See, I never would do that drinking because I'd go and drink and the feeling would go away. So I was really a work in progress. And I'm happy to say that, I'm not all well. Please believe me, I'm not. This will never be over. I'm always going to be an alcoholic, and I will always have to deal with my issues. And I've gone through a lot in life. I lost my dear husband. It'll be 2 years next month. The love of my life, the sober man in my life. What a blessing to know that I could love and be loved the way we were. And we worked a program. He was 47 years sober when he died, and it shattered me. And I was right back to the basics. And, I've gone through a lot. We all go through a lot. Everybody in this world goes through a lot. But boy, to be able to have this program and to be as sober as I am tonight, I am just so grateful for every bit of it because I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to help people with my experience. Now I'm a widow, so now I can help people that become widows or widowers. And it's, I really feel that there's a lot of grace around me. I think I'm pretty much in the day. I start my day back to basics that I did when I was very newly sober. I'm reading a lot of Emmett Fox. I loved him. I'm reading a lot of spiritual stuff. I'm reading page 86 because that gives me clear directions on what to do for the day. And, I grew up in AA and I became the mother that I always thought I should have been. Jack came to the marriage with 2 little girls. He had custody. We raised those little girls. and we did it with a lot of principle. I'm very blessed. It was always my reactions to things that got me in trouble. Long stories. I have horrendously embarrassing incidents of reacting in sobriety when it's certainly not appropriate. I mean, I got fired. It just came out of me. I don't know what happened. I just was so angry, and oh my God. So I love this meeting. I love seeing all you guys. I was in Santa Fe last summer and met everybody that I've heard so much about. I've known Heather for a long, long time. I've known Tom and Juanita, but I'm just, someday I would really love to attend a FOTS. I've been the one in Portland. That's where I met Erica, Portland, Maine, but I hope someday to show up in person. But thank you all. And thanks, Tom, for asking me to speak.
How about Jackie or Dave Ferrulli, or both of you?
Thanks, Tom. My name's Jackie and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Jackie.
You know, I just started coming to this meeting about 3 weeks ago and I just love it. And it's so good to see a lot of my friends here that I have met over the years. And gosh, emotional sobriety, I love that. You know, I was thinking, somebody said, talked about the new frontier. I think every day I get up, I go to a new frontier, and I never know what that's going to be or what it's going to look like. But when I came in and talking about emotions, you know, it took me 6 months before I even started thawing out and had an emotion. And then I drank again because screw that, you know. But then I finally stayed here and I did thaw out. And I'm so grateful for that. I remember, now I met Mary in 1989, and I had lost my son. And, you know, one of the things I remember sitting at a meeting is how grateful I was that I could cry. And somebody had said to me when I was brand new and I was telling my story, and of course then, you know, that's all there was. I was my story. And I got done. He said, you know, he says, I will never know the highs you will know because I haven't known the lows you have known. And I thought that was really funny. But I understand that today. And what I'm so grateful for is the program, the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, that kept me here long enough to get a good sponsor. And that you guys did, you know, whenever I get too high, you bring me down. When I get too low, you bring me up, and you're always there. And gosh, I met Tom a long time ago, and Juanita, and it's just been a wonderful, wonderful journey. There's been a lot of lows. You know, I lost another son, and I really, really saw the power of this program because I called Mary in Maine, and the power of all over the world. I know it is, but all over the United States, and how she contacted somebody in Denver because Mickey, because I couldn't find the meeting, and I went to that meeting, and everybody wrapped their arms around me and carried me through that. And that, you know, if I get too high, you bring me down. If I get too low, you bring me up. And that's continued. And I always have this joy in my soul that I am so grateful for, because today I've been able to emotionally deal with whatever God brings into my life. And it's not easy. You know, I still have those tapes that come in. Just a week ago, I called Mary and she just gave me this gift, you know, and oh my God. But I get there, you know, I get there. And, but I wake up every morning with God, and I never know what today is going to bring, but I'm grateful for another day. You know, I shouldn't be alive today. And I was diagnosed with something a couple years ago, and it was a few months later, my brother died, who was 10 years younger than me, from a brain aneurysm, and I'm still alive. And he was short of having 3 days short of having 10 years sobriety. So we were very close because of this program. We spoke the same language. And so it's so awesome to hear about, you know, emotional sobriety. And I really like the idea that I just show up every day, and if there's somebody that needs a candle, I'm available. And I'm so grateful for sponsorship that has kept me in the program, even whenever I didn't want to be here. And for sponsorship that kept me alive, even though I didn't want to be here. And I always say, when I first met Mary, you know, I always say she saved my life, because Tony I lost him a year before and I didn't have a sponsor. And, you know, I was getting ready to go with some behavior that would have taken me back out drinking. And that was where I met Mary in a class, in a hospice class. And I always say she saved my life, and Dave says, and my marriage. So that's all for me. It's so good to see everybody, and I love this meeting. And look forward to seeing all of you again. And I thank you, Brian, Mike. You know, I hadn't heard you before. I've heard Erica, and I've been in your home, and it's been a long time ago. And, you know, Heather and Tom and Juanita and Pat, I met her in Albuquerque last year. I mean, it's just, yeah, what a marvelous program. Thank you guys so much. It's sure good seeing you. Okay.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you,
Pat,
Jeff.
you have your hand up. You want to speak?
I'm Pat. I'm an alcoholic. I was just waving at Jackie.
Oh,
But I will say I'm grateful to be in this meeting and have an opportunity to see people also that I really love from around New Mexico and other parts of the country. The issue of emotional sobriety is still a quandary for me. And I've been sober a while and have great sponsorship, and I still, you know, go through the steps fairly regularly and sponsor people and all that. And the longer I'm around, the more I realize emotional sobriety for me is staying where my feet are, is staying in the moment, and whatever God brings into my life today is fine with me. Because God does a better job of running my life than I ever did. I don't know how I would survive in today's world if I didn't have the faith that that God's God and I'm not, which is great news, and that I don't have to worry about what's going to be happening. I just need to be aware of how I conduct my life today and be open to whatever comes along. So I thank you all for your comments, and it's really great to be here with all of you. Thanks.
Thanks, Pat. How about Brad T?
Hey everybody, I'm Brad Tolm, alcoholic. I don't know, hell, I'm in the barrel right now myself. I celebrated 8 years last week, and I've just been not well. So as a result of that, yesterday I was talking to Tom. I've been telling on it. And Mike was talking about the transference of power and not working with others with the intent of, just being there, just escaping reality, but, the transference of that power in and through. So I called Tom last night, or he called me back. I don't remember what happened, but I had been invited to a backyard meeting. I hadn't been to a meeting, I've been to one in 5 months or whatever. And, I've been hiding. We've all we're in a weird position right now. Like, what do you do? Do you go, do you not? And all this kind of stuff. I've got young children. I've got parents who I would never want to affect in a negative manner due to all this other stuff. And so I see my girlfriend on a regular basis and my kids, and that's about it. And that's a recipe for disaster. That's been my experience anyway. If those are the only people you're seeing. So I go to this meeting last night, and, this lovely AA, I mean, this man is just a pillar here. 37 years he's got, and he had this meeting in his backyard. And we're all back there, and there's, several old timers and, a couple of us who've got a little bit of time, and then one guy who's got a week and one guy that's got a day. And when the meeting concludes, I rushed to those two guys, and I got to the guy with 7 days first. He just got out of a spin dry detox at a psych ward, and I'm giving him my absolute best pitch. I mean, I'm giving him all I got. I mean, and and while I'm talking, I've got goosebumps, and I've got another guy next to me interjecting with every cliche he could possibly muster, keep coming back and all this stuff. And I'm judging him the whole time and just going through all this stuff. And here I am in the middle of it. But I'm still going, just trying to help this guy. And I called him today and got the goosebumps back. And something's up with me. I don't know what it is. I feel comfortable saying that here amongst all of you. Mike, thank you so much for that talk you gave. I don't know. I'm still learning. Here I am. That's it. Thanks.
How about Corey C?
Well, thank you, Tom. Hey, thanks, Mike and Erica. There's something that you guys about like couples like Tom and Juanita and you guys and Sam and his lady that like I'm so happy for you guys and other parts of me are like super jealous. I'm like, well, that's just utterly not fair that I don't have, a wife in 30 years and
You muted yourself, Corey.
damn it, Chris. Hey, my name's Corey. I'm an alcoholic. I'm going to start over. What I was saying was there's something really beautiful about like that to me. There's something really beautiful about like seeing couples in AA. Like Erica, I loved your share and thank you for your husband, Mike. I very much appreciate like hearing people that have relationships in this thing that they walk through this stuff and kids and somebody shared about losing sons and family members with alcoholism and it's just been a really great night for me. I needed to hear all of these things and I was just talking to Tom maybe it was 2 nights ago and I've personally been going through some things that are like just that don't they don't sit right with me and I don't like it. I like to feel comfortable and I want to feel good all the time. And several people and I have talked about, some things that Tom and I were talking about. We were mentioning, like thawing out and melting away this like just stuff that's all stuck up in you for years and years before you get in here and to feel that stuff. And, the topic of emotional sobriety, that's what the goal is, to take those feelings and be okay. Instead of, stuffing everything down and just being like, I'm okay, I'm a man, I'm going to take it, I'm going to be okay with everything that happens to me. It's nice to be called on. I really don't think that I could interject with anything more than what's been shared already. There's so many wonderful, wonderful people in here. And I adore this meeting and thank you guys for sharing it. And thank you guys so much for coming out tonight, Mike.
Thanks, Corey. Sam always asks a question about this time. He always asks the person who shared an extra question. I call him the Bill Moyers of AA because he asks great questions. But I don't know, Mike, if it would be appropriate or not, but you mentioned that you have a spiritual practice. Would it be appropriate to talk about that a little bit?
Well, my spiritual practice is Alcoholics Anonymous, and you guys know about that. I do some stuff in my 11th step that encourages us to go out and explore things, and I do that. And I don't know, I've been drawn to a lot of different stuff over the years. I just flow with it, and it's always been by invitation. I've never tried or had to self-will any of the spiritual stuff that I've been involved in. It's all just this year I have an opportunity to I've been asked to go out and participate in Lakota, and I've done a lot of that in the past. This is more of a, well, it's something that I'd never thought that I'd participate in that arena, and I you know, I don't want to get into it, but God just keeps, you know, unfolding stuff, and it's you know, sometimes we hear if the student is ready, sometimes the teacher's ready, the student will appear, you know, and God just keeps throwing these experiences so that when the student appears, the teacher's ready about the spiritual life. Just absolutely love it. It really blows my mind, really, if I was to really sit and thought all the things that I've been asked to participate in spiritually, and you know, do weddings and funerals and all the other stuff for people to be involved in people's lives in that way. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You know, coming from where I come from, and I know you guys get this, coming from where we come from, and living a life today of like spiritual invitation is just, it's just beautiful. With that question.
Yeah, thank you. How about the newlywed, Sam?
Hey guys, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So I'm Sam. I'm an alcoholic, and you know, one of the things that I love about this essay, you know, I think a lot of times it gets confused because I've seen a lot of these workshops where they talk about, you know, emotional sobriety as if it's some kind of you know, Gnostic sect of AA. They do some secret potion and stuff to help.
Can't hear you, Sam.
Can't hear you, Sam. They can't hear you.
You gotta get back in your car.
When the essay was originally written, can you guys hear me now? Yes.
The car is off, Sam.
Ah.
We can hear Lauren.
Welcome to married life.
Would someone else like to share while they're getting their technical difficulties sorted out?
How about Jason T?
I feel like Brad's behind this. No, I'm joking. All right, Jason, teen or alcoholic. Mike, thanks a lot for your share. I've gotten to hear Erica a couple times since this whole quarantine started, and so it's good to hear you as well. Yeah, I could really relate to what Brian was talking about. You know, I've 19 years, and you know, a couple months ago I was kind of in the same boat, And the crazy thing is that how much I was arguing, like convincing myself I didn't need to share that with anybody. And for years, I mean, now that I'm going right now, and honestly, for probably 10 years, I've been kind of just slowly letting, trying to manage well in a lot of areas of my life. And it's crazy because the things are so much more subtle. You know what I mean? It's not like, right when I quit drinking, I mean, the stuff was, pretty glaring that was, wrong or whatever, but just this little subtle stuff was just as capable of shutting me off from, any kind of relationship with a higher power. I mean, to the point I couldn't even say the word God without feeling like I was going to throw up. I mean, I just couldn't even, talk about it, And so, it's been really good to hear everybody's perspective on this. And I think the takeaway is that it doesn't matter, how long you're sober. I mean, this is the stuff that people go through, I mean, you stick around long enough, like you're going to go through it, and you just got to be able to speak up and know that, it's funny. It's like you get sober and you think you can never do anything wrong or feel badly ever again. And it's like, you don't want to tell anybody about it, but anyway, thanks for calling on me, Tom. Appreciate it.
About Chandler from Baltimore.
Hey everybody, my name's Chandler. I'm an alcoholic. I actually just chatted Kurt. I listened to this workshop last week, and I got 28 years, and I had Brian as a sponsor. I had everything lined up, and I just could not get a spiritual awakening. My ego was, I put a loaded gun to my head in about 7 years, just was like this. I tried drinking, that didn't work. I tried AA, that didn't work. And living without anything didn't work. And I actually, it's funny, suicide came up because I moved to Baltimore, and I thought, well, screw it, I'm going to kill myself, but I'm not so sure the other side's going to be any easier. And so I got a sponsor, and I was like, all right, God, here's the deal. I'm going to dot every I, I'm going to cross every T. I had been in workshops with Don P. Bob O's tape had circulated around. Like, I knew what this program could offer, and I was just convinced it was not in reach for me. And so I was like, I'm going to dot every I, I'm going to cross every T. I'm going to do these steps like my life depends on it. And it's weird because I don't know how to think about it, but I didn't really understand that my life depended on it until I was like 9 years in the program. I thought I knew I had a drinking problem, but I didn't know I had a living problem. And I was definitely like focused on the unmanageable part of the step because I could just manage it better. Like if I admitted if I admitted it was unmanageable, then I could just manage it better. And if I could get the drinking stuff out of the way, then I could really manage it better. And so I ran that into the ground. I got a sponsor down here in Baltimore, Dave D. He's a great guy, real like working man, AA, keeping it simple. And I was like, I'm gonna do these steps, and if I'm still this crazy, I'm gonna blow my brains out like guilt free. And my life changed. I did an inventory like I'd never done before. I found out that I was the problem. I finally got into a 6 and 7 where I was like, God, if you take it or leave it, I don't care. I'm done setting terms. And that was the spiritual awakening. Like that was the moment that I had the first time in my life. I thought, man, I think everything's going to be all right. But like, I'm a real alcoholic, and I let my foot off the accelerator. Like everyone is sharing that happens, and I got a high profile job with an elected official in the national eye. And all of a sudden that job became my higher power before I realized what was happening. And everyone around me realized what was happening. And my God's got a funny sense of humor. When I got sober, I threw a punch into a wall and broke the 4th and 5th metacarpal. It's called a boxer fracture. I'm sure I'm not the only one on this call that has had a boxer fracture. And then when I hit a bottom at about 6 or 7 years, I threw a punch with the other hand and broke the same 2 bones. And about 2 years ago, I threw 25 years sober, I threw a punch and broke the same 2 but I've broken the same 2 bones in my hands 3 times. And like, try admitting that to a newcomer. Like, yeah, 25 sober, you too can have the same fractures you got when you were a newcomer. But when that happened, I popped the flare, and I've never been a huge fellowship guy, but I popped the flare and I turned around and there were like 4 or 5 guys, Brian, one of them, that I'd been sober with for 15 years. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And they were like, bro, your 11th step has been shit for years. And they all said the same thing. It was like they all talked. A friend of mine in Ohio, a friend of mine in Texas, a friend of mine in Maryland, they all said, dude, what's your 11th step practice? What's your 11th step practice? 12 step work cannot sustain you if you're not growing. And it's funny because, and I actually just reached out to Kurt Z, because that book, Breathing Underwater, has come up. Like, I'm like, well, God, what do you want me to do? And this book, Breathing Underwater, has come into my life about 100 times. And finally I was like, screw it. All right, God, I got it. So I'm getting a few folks around Baltimore. We're going to do a small small study of that together to just be a place where we can grow. And I just got to say, I just am getting so much out of these workshops of people. You know, there's a time to talk with the newcomer and to talk about the drink problem, and there's a time to talk about this being a spiritual problem, with the drink being a part of that, and that we got to work out the solution. And I just need to hear all of that. So thanks for doing this so much, and thanks for calling on me.
Thank you. Sam, you want to take us out?
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. We just got home from a 6-hour trip, but one of the things that I hear a lot is, I don't like necessarily the term emotional sobriety. That's what I don't mind it, but sometimes it gets kind of a bad rap, because it's almost like it's this Gnostic thing that, advanced AAs practice, et cetera. But when Bill wrote that letter, and then it was later titled Love, and then they put it into emotional sobriety. And I think they translate to the same thing. And for me, it's really about, unconditional love, and learning how to have it talks about having a much more humility in our relations with ourselves, with each other, and with God. And, Kurt talked about last week, the Al-Anon terminology, where, maturation and evolution towards wholeness. And, we hear people all the time on this who are avid step workers with service positions, who we know they took their 3rd step seriously. We know they've made their amends. I mean, Kurt talked about how last week, which was one of the most amazing meetings, how Koyas asked him if he meant it when he took his 3rd step, and he was taking a drink in the car. And he said, well, then this is a part of that. And sometimes the neat thing, and the reason I started this kind of workshop and why I really like that essay, is it started with guys in my house, and we would talk about where certain dependencies had started to crop up, faulty emotional dependencies for security or for prestige. Mine a lot of times revolve around pride, about what people think about me, what people in AA think about me, and I can really miss the mark by getting high almost a little bit on validation, because I'm a person who has deep insecurities, and getting a lot of validation from people a lot of times can give me enough juice, and I can mistake that for a spiritual awakening or the real, and sometimes I think I missed a lot of what was available in AA for a long time, because I think I was just getting a lot of validation. And now it's more about, giving, now it's evolved into learning how to love without any kind of dependency, and I see the dependencies crop back up, and then I try and be mindful and push them back out. How can I be unconditionally loving and bring the same kind of love into my family life and into my work life as I do when I sponsor somebody, to have that unconditional love and just that unconditional attitude of service. Don used to talk about how the secret to his marriage to Jackie was, that line from The Princess Bride, "As you wish," as you wish. And, I really love that. But I just wanted to say tonight, it's one of the coolest things, and I really enjoyed Mike. Thank you so much for coming on here.
what really meant a lot, what means a lot to me here is where you hear these people who you know who are really working steps and who go through these kind of dark nights of the soul and then have a new experience with the same steps, a deeper experience with the same steps. I mean, I have more respect for Brian Percox than a lot of people that, I mean, he's one of the top, 50 people in my life that I really deeply respect that guy. And when he was talking earlier and sharing his heart and sharing the difficulties that he went through and sharing that so honestly, not an ounce of respect was lost from me. I mean, it grew even more because of his honesty and vulnerability and willingness to be open as we're walking through these times in life that are both good and difficult. So anyway, that's what this all means to me. And that's what makes it so special. It's that unconditional love that flows through God, through me to others. And sometimes I have to have some humility in relation to myself as well as to others. And sometimes, having a lot of pride about this is where I should be and, standing on some soapbox and being super self-righteous because I can be that guy to correct everybody in a meeting, and say, oh, this is just bullshit. I don't want to hear about this guy writing his inventory on a yellow legal pad, writing. I mean, I'm a guy that can sit there and then I think I'm going to have to somehow, I need to help these people and set them straight, and for me, this is, the longer I'm sober, the more beat up I get with myself, the gentler I become. And the more I really get to kind of experience God in that gentle, humbler way, that peaceful way. Anyway, that's all I got. Thank you. You guys have blown my mind over the last few weeks with these. And I think I'm going to have fun with Steve next week. And I really appreciate Mike and Erica. And I'm so glad that we've had this opportunity. So thank you guys. And we usually close it up. If everybody can hear me with the Lord's Prayer. And the way that we do it is kind of quietly say it to ourselves. And quietly go to our inner room and just say it inside ourselves. And then thank you for a great meeting. So for all who care to join me, we'll do that. Amen. Thank you guys for a great meeting.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks again, Mike.